Okay, thank you all for stopping by. As usual, our weekly women's basketball media availability session. Tonight we're joined by head coach Corey Close and student athletes Charisma Osborne and Lindsey Corsaro ahead of our game on Friday against Stanford. We will start with an opening statement from coach, and then we'll open it up to questions for coach of the student athletes. Feel free to use the raise hand function.
Well, just really briefly, I think that it's just such it's adventures all the time. But we are really excited about the opportunity to go up and play Stanford. I still think they're, really been the most consistent team in the country in terms of their play throughout the year. They're going to bring out the best in us, and we're excited for the opportunity to compete.
Great. We'll start with questions. Like I said, feel free to use the raise hand function. We'll start with Dave Marcus, UCLA play-by-play broadcaster. Dave, you're muted.
Coach, what are the biggest challenges and opportunities playing a top team for the second time in 4 games?
Yeah, well, I mean, I think it sort of just raises your standards of like everything is a championship rep, and what my hope is over the long haul is that the players sort of just adjust. They just don't know any other way. You just can't get away with anything that's not at a top 10 level, And so when you're playing in the Elite 8 to go to a Final Four, it really doesn't feel that different because you've held yourself to that standard over a long period of time, moment by moment, possession by possession. So, that's really my hope, is that it brings out that kind of habitual standard for themselves.
Quick one for Lindsey, if I may. Lindsey, you and Charisma, great assists. I mean, your 2.9 assists to turnovers is off the charts. Stanford last time, I couldn't believe this when I saw it. The Bruins turned over Stanford 16 times last time, only committed 9, but it seemed like every time the ball went into the paint, they had 3 players with their hands on it. So how do you adjust watching that film to go into the game on Friday?
Yeah, we've talked a lot about how they're really long and really big inside, and the way Stanford plays defense is to collapse and be really disciplined to try to make you hit tough outside shots. And so I think we're really prepared and ready, and we still want to keep the same exact aggression, getting it to the paint. And then we've worked a lot on moving off the ball on the perimeter and just the person catching it, being patient and looking for those kickouts. So we know that that's how they're going to play us. And I feel like we've been preparing in a good way to be patient when those post feeds come, but also to not pull back how aggressive we are and still attacking the paint.
A little bit off script, one quick one for Charisma. How do you like being one of the interviewers on Bruin Table Talk?
It's actually been really cool being an interviewer and being like on the other side. But it's definitely a lot of work, like going into it and like thinking of all of the questions and stuff, but it's really cool to be able to do it with Michaela and Cameron.
Thank you.
Go to Tiffany from the LA Times.
For Coach, what have you asked Charisma to do this year that's different from what she needed to do last year? I'm sure the list is very long, but what kind of comes up? What's kind of the biggest change in the role that Charisma has this year for you guys?
Is Charisma, do you promise that Charisma's going to have to stay muted after I say these things? No, I'm just teasing. I think there's a lot of things, and I think it's the natural maturation, and it's a very difficult choice. Do you want to be held to great, or do you want to be held to good? And, I think that has transpired in a lot of different ways. We don't really have a one point guard. Lindsey and Charisma really share that. And we really want, I think I've asked her to be much more assertive, to get the ball in our hands and to create offense. Both getting our team into offense, but also her being more of an attacker on a more consistent basis. She can't sit back and go, well, is Michaela going to score? Is Japrice going to score? Okay, well, then maybe I'll do it. That option does not exist anymore for her. And so she, really asking her to be incredibly proactive, attacking, especially off the bounce to get downhill. I think she's been pretty attack minded from working on her jump shot and being able to shoot the ball from three, but really seeking seams. She's also really an elite free throw shooter. So getting her to the line more by having more of an attack mentality. But I think, more so than anything tactically, it's going to be, for me, it's holding her to a mindset of greatness. I just believe she is has such a huge future ahead of her, and to hold her mindset to, is this what it's going to take to become great? And that's been something that we've really held her to, and allowing us to really coach her very, very hard.
And for Lindsey, a follow-up on Charisma. How have you seen her leadership improve from freshman year to sophomore year as one of her teammates? How do you see her improving in terms of keeping you guys accountable?
Yeah, I think Riz has taken a huge jump just in her leadership, and she's always so competitive. That was the same last year and this year. But it's fun this year when we're in huddles in the games. Like, we're both talking in the huddle and she's pointing out, hey, like, look for this, and we need to step up our defense. So it's fun hearing that competitive fire just come out and really help lead our team. And I think she already holds the standard so well with her reps and how hard she goes in her reps and how hard she competes. And it's been really awesome hearing her just vocally continue to hold our team accountable, and to use her knowledge and what she sees on the court has been so helpful for our team this year.
Thanks.
Go to John from the Daily Bruin.
Yeah, for Coach, with Stanford losing their last game to Colorado, do you as a coach kind of watch that game and try to mimic what Colorado did to mess with them at all, or do you kind of stay in your own game plan and try to do what you've done in the past?
Well, I don't think we do it anymore because Colorado won. I think we do that all the time. Like, we're going to go, okay, what did Colorado do because they were their last game that caused them trouble? Or, were there any particular themes, and how does that match up with how we're at our best? I think, as a coach, there's always a balance of learning from the other people and trying to apply those things to your team, but also not trying to lose your own identity in the process, trying to be a little bit of everybody else. Like, we need to be who we are, and play to our identity and where are we at our best. And I think when we have that mindset, we are at our best. But I think there's always things to learn from the opponents. And honestly, give Colorado credit. I think Tony said that was the biggest improvement he sees in this Stanford team this year compared to last, is they are way more physical and really scrappy. And I think you've always said that they're smart or they're tough, but man, they're quick to loose balls. They really have a high toughness factor. And so we're going to have to match that and exceed that if we're going to be competing at that level. But that's what I thought Colorado did really well, is they really scrapped, and they got after every loose ball and did all the intangible things to give themselves a chance to win. And, I think that's what you have to do against a team like Stanford. They're incredibly talented. They're deep, they're balanced. And, you got to win all the intangible plays to put yourself in a position to make enough plays to win.
Go to Haley from the SoCal News Group.
Question for the players, just what's the biggest difference in your team since the last time you played Stanford?
I think we've really put a huge focus on how we can always be the tougher and more together team. And that's kind of always been a focus for us. But I think the last time we played them, it kind of exposed a lot of gaps that we have as far as our toughness and togetherness come. And so that's really been our focus since we've come back from Christmas break, and playing them is like, how can every week we just grow a little bit in toughness? Because in this conference and playing teams like Stanford and playing teams like Oregon, or all the teams that you play in our conference, everyone's so talented that it truly does come down to toughness. And so I do think we've taken a lot of steps in that, and we can always keep growing in that. But I do feel like we've made big steps since our last game.
Yeah, I agree with Lindsey. I think our toughness, definitely. We talked a lot about being the tougher, more together team against Washington State because we knew that they were a really tough team in the Pac-12. But definitely going into Stanford, I think that we need to be tough and really just improve in that.
Just to follow up on one part about that, Haley, is that I think the reality for us is that we did a lot of tactical things well. We against them, and we held them to 61 points. We turned them over 16 times. But there was a lot of plays where we were making the tactical play, but you got to make the fighting play. And we did a lot of times, for instance, where we boxed out, but then there was just a scrap, and you know what? We didn't come up with it. And so really thinking about that fighter's mentality. And we actually watched a mental training video today in practice that Coach Tasha showed us that talks about everybody's talent, you know, in the end ends up evening out. And really for us, it's about focus and toughness. Those are the big separators that we need to, after talent works its way out, and, you know, go-to players and those things, you obviously need that. But the real separators in games like that come down to more of a mental toughness and a physical toughness that we're going to have to focus in on.
And then quick follow-up question. Who do you think is the most underrated player on your team going into this game?
I don't know if underrated is really hard because we really value the strengths of so many people on our team. And so, you know, probably from a global perspective, it's probably going to be Cam Brown. I think would be most of the time the person that she doesn't show up in the stat sheets as much, and she may not score as much, but she guards a point. She might guard Ari McDonald one game. She might guard, you know, switch on to Satu or Sabali, not Satu, her sister, but you know, it doesn't matter. She's going to do it. She comes up with more out of area rebounds or passion plays. And so if I had to name one, I would name her. But the reality is we know what we have in Cam. Maybe everybody else doesn't, but I guess that's the definition of ratings, right? Their opinions. And for us, it's a fact that she is a difference maker for us. So, and it's her birthday today, so we have to, you know, clue that in. But I think the reality is that, you know, I think for us to be a championship level team, it's going to have to be that nobody's underrated because we understand what each person uniquely brings to the table.
Circle back to Dave.
Unmuted. Coach, I want to follow up on that issue of toughness. I listened to Tara Vanderveer talk after their loss. She questioned her team's toughness in a way that made me think I had tuned into a UConn press conference. How do you channel the toughness but not have your players all get 3 fouls in the first quarter?
Well, I think toughness is it looks a lot of different ways. You know, I think that it isn't always. It's not like a takedown. It's not like the toughest team gets the biggest hit. I think it's toughness has to do with mental focus. It has to do with anticipation. It has to do with getting to places first. You know, it has to be locked into the scouting report. You know, I think just, you know, fighting fatigue, you know, I think that's where you're going to see it. I think it's very clear that we don't have any margin for error in terms of fouls. So that has to be just what does toughness look like for us? It doesn't look like fouling. In fact, actually, toughness looks like learning how to defend physical, anticipatory defense, for instance, without fouling. To me, that's toughness. When you don't just have to get frustrated and swing your arms down. It takes way more discipline to be a wall on wheels in the post and move your feet and go straight up and contest a hard shot, then box out. I mean, to me, that's the ultimate toughness when you do all the little things, the detail things with elite consistency. And to me, that's a tough team. And I do always say, I saw that press conference too, Dave. And the good news is we get to play Stanford. And the bad news is we get to play Stanford after Stanford lost to Colorado. It was sort of like good news that Colorado beat them and bad news that Colorado beat them. But you know what? I think we all know that. I mean, we know how we feel after a loss, and you want to get that taste out of your mouth. Well, we're going to have to rise up if we're going to have a chance to keep that kind of taste in Stanford's mouth.
Anyone else questions for Coach of the student athletes? All right, we'll wrap it up.
Because they're easy. They're easy on us today.
Yeah, we'll wrap it up a little early then, and we can continue with our evening activities. Then we can. I want to say thanks again for taking the time to be here. As usual, I think this might be Haley's first time here, but the recording for this from this call will be available on the UCLA Media Downloads page if anyone needs the audio or the video. And per usual, never hesitate to reach out if you have any individual requests. Our team is very accommodating, as you all know, to media, local and national. Yeah, with that, I'll say thank you again and have a great rest of your evening.
Thanks, everybody. Appreciate y'all being here.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.